Oh, man. You know, before I even say a word, I actually feel like I owe some of you an apology. I really do. I feel like I owe some of you an apology because when we were done with Revolution and we had Jon Moxley against Adam Copeland in that, fucking Borefest at the end of that pay-per-view, I thought there's no way. There's no way that we get to Dynasty and they don't do the right thing and change the championship away from Jon Moxley and onto somebody else. That person being Swerve Strickland. Because Swerve beat Ricochet, he earned the right to become #1 contender for this title. Surely there's no way that they are going to drag this out until July, until they get to Texas, until they get to All In. There's no way. There's no way. I cannot think of another storyline in the history of this company, in the 5 years that AEW has been in existence, that has just sucked the life out of me in the way that this one has. And this is your top storyline. Jon Moxley is the AEW World Champion, right? We have not seen the title since October, when he won it at Wrestle Dream. It's been locked away in a briefcase, supposedly. We haven't even seen the belt. And the Death Riders come out week after week after week after week after week. And it is consistently the worst television that AEW puts out. It actively drags down the rest of the show. A few weeks ago, it was Jon Moxley wrestling Adam Copeland in a rematch with a fucking board with nails sticking out of his back. Why? Because, I don't fucking know why. It's Jon Moxley. Why does he do the shit that he does? we had what we had at Revolution last month, which is a shame because on so many of these pay-per-views, they put out a lot of great wrestling matches, right? There was some tonight on this show. We may have had the greatest triple threat match tonight in the history of AEW. And yet again, for the second straight month, it is going to be completely overshadowed by a dog shit ending to their pay-per-view. There was a time when AEW, if nothing else, you can rely on them for great pay-per-views, top to bottom, beginning to end. That was something that they had over the competition. They've been very consistent with this throughout their existence. No more. No more. And you know what actually pissed me off the most? I can't even sit here and tell you that it was even just the ending itself that really pissed me off the most. What pissed me off the most is that I'm sitting here and I'm watching this and I'm thinking to myself, this match is starting and it is 10 minutes before the stroke of midnight here on the East Coast. They were in Philadelphia for this show tonight. So they were on the East Coast. I'm in the East Coast. It is midnight and you are forcing me here because I've already made it this far. You are forcing me here to sit here and watch Jon Moxley defend the AEW World Championship in the main event, and it is 12 o'clock in the morning. The only way that you could salvage this, the only way that you can say that this is worth my time, is at the end of all of this, Swerve Strickland is standing with the AEW World Championship held high above his head, and we could finally end this long nightmare that we have all been in since October of 2024. That is the only acceptable ending to this pay-per-view when you are going until almost 12:30 in the morning. And they give us the ending that they gave us tonight on a Sunday night. Do you know how many people were probably in the building tonight, let alone watching this at home, who have to wake up for work in the morning? I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about all the other people out there who have to wake up in the morning to go to work. And the fucking show is still going on and it's 12:10, 12:15, 12:20. And that is the ending that you give people? Tony Khan doesn't give a shit. That's what came across to me at the end of this show tonight. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He books what he wants to book. He allows Jon Moxley to do whatever the fuck it is that he wants to do. He thinks that the story that he has is legitimately great. That's what he believes. He believed it with the Elite. He believes it with the Death Riders. He thinks this is good. He thinks this is good television. He thinks Jon Moxley and the Death Riders are getting great heat. He thinks that this is going to generate new fans for AEW, that this is somehow going to bring in new viewers to the television show. This is the worst shit that this company has ever produced. And I don't even know how this is possible on a show where you have a match like Kenny Omega and Ricochet and Speedball Mike Bailey, when you have people like Timeless Tony Storm and Will Ospreay and Hangman Adam Page. How is it possible that on the same show you can have something like this? I mean, it doesn't even make sense to me. It's like two totally different companies fused together. They went off the air at almost 12:30 in the morning with the Young Bucks making their AEW return, interfering in the main event, and costing Swerve Strickland the AEW World Championship. And yet again, Jon Moxley steals another win. Maybe this time it wasn't because of the Death Riders, but he steals another win. And for what? So they can drag this out until All In. So that now we can get the Young Bucks and the Death Riders against Swerve and Hangman and the Ops at Anarchy in the Arena, probably at Double or Nothing, right? I could see it now. They're going to milk this for all it's worth. They're going to milk this like Bessie the fucking cow until we get to Texas. And then maybe, I can't even sit here and say for sure, maybe at that point, the winner of the Owen, whoever that is, will go on to finally win the AEW World Championship. And you know what the saddest part is about the entire thing? I don't even care. I don't even care. I really don't. I mean, I get upset about this stuff because I sit here and I look and I say, how is the time management on these shows so fucking awful that Adam Cole and Daniel Garcia go out there and they wrestle to crickets? Why is it that these shows are stretched so long and he feels so compelled to, it's like trying to shove 10 pounds of shit into a 5-pound bag. He feels like he has to just overflow these shows with matches. And then you get to the point where the crowd fatigue sets in All right, you bring him down, maybe you bring him back up, and you bring them back up for what we got in the main event tonight. He should be ashamed of himself. This company will never learn. They will never learn. It's embarrassing. To have back-to-back pay-per-view endings like this is a fucking embarrassment. There really is no other way to put it. So yes, Jon Moxley is still your AEW World Champion. Jon Moxley will be going on to All In as the champion because at this point, we're so deep into this shit. There's no fucking way he's losing the title before then. So now we have to deal with this for a number of months longer as the Death Rider story drags out. Now we have to wait and see, why did the Young Bucks do what they did? The Young Bucks haven't been seen in months. Why are the Young Bucks here? We'll have to tune into the show to find out. I wish I could bring myself to actually give two shits, but I can't. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Tony Khan and this company have completely lost the plot. Absolutely, completely just gone. Goodbye. They if they haven't learned by now, with this, they'll just never learn. You just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over again. If he's content to do that, that's fine. I do think it's offensive to your fans, though, honestly, to have a show that goes this late and give them a finish like that. That is such a slap in the face to the audience that it's almost inconceivable to me that this is the same company that has brandied itself as being fan-friendly, and Tony Khan, the ultimate fan himself, that I have to believe he does this intentionally because he wants there to be this kind of reaction. He wants people to talk about his company no matter what. All publicity is good publicity. If it gets people talking, if it gets people emotional about it, right, in his mind, it's a good thing. I honestly don't see how this can be viewed in any way, shape, or form as any kind of positive for this company. I genuinely don't. They see this as a long-term story. By the time Jon Moxley maybe drops that championship in Texas, this story will have been dragged out for 9 months. Can you imagine 9 months of this shit? 9 months. It's atrocious. And it's going to cast a shadow over everything else now because this is what the discourse is going to be for the rest of the week. All about that main event, just like it was a Revolution. The more things change, the more they stay the same. They just don't learn. And like I said, we had maybe the best triple threat match in the history of AEW tonight, with Kenny Omega defending his international title. We had 3 Owen Hart tournament matches. We had a heel turn, not only by Tony Khan, but by FTR. Predictable as it may have been. We had the heel turn. They turned heel on Adam Copeland. Took him out of action. We probably won't see him for a while. Fine. I really don't know what else to say. I'm not even in the mood to talk about everything else that happened on this show. I don't even want to talk about some of this stuff. 1 o'clock in the morning and I have to talk about this? It's a waste of my time. We'll go through this. This is your Dynasty 2025 review. If there's one thing I hate, it's investing my time in a wrestling show, especially a 4.5 hour fucking show, to get that kind of payoff at the end. I cannot get over that. I really can't. And I will say it again, the time management on these shows is fucking terrible. And he has to do something about it. It is awful. It is awful. It is as bad as I've ever seen it in any wrestling company ever. Seriously. I know he doesn't see it as a problem because, it's great wrestling matches, right? Nobody does pay-per-view like AEW. True. That's not always a good thing. This is your Dynasty 2025 review. You know who I am. I don't have to tell you. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. You want to drop one? Great. If not, whatever. Let's get into the 0 hour. We'll start from the very beginning. We're going to zip through this until we get to that dog shit main event. Okay, we're going to zip right through this. We're going to start with the pre-show. They had 2 matches on the pre-show. Nick Wayne, Leo Rush, Action Andretti. They took on AR Fox and Top Flight. AR Fox doesn't win anything. He didn't win tonight either. The other match was Max Caster, best wrestler in the world. Open challenge. He's been doing this gimmick now for, I don't know, a few months now, several months now. It's a comedy gimmick. So he tried to get the crowd going with his chant that he does. They didn't cooperate. So he scolded them. He revealed that he was wearing a Ben Simmons jersey, who used to play for the 76ers and no longer does. Lights go out. Lights go out. We're going to find out who's going to answer this open challenge. And as it turns out, actually, it was the right call here, because this was all building to the return of Anthony Bowens. So he had new music. He came out. He had Billy Gunn with him. He got a great reaction here in Philadelphia. Out comes Anthony Bowens. So they get in the ring together. Bowens is in one corner. Caster is in another. This did not go very long. This did not even last a minute. Anthony Bowens picks up the win over Max Caster. It was the right call to make. But for a match between two former tag team partners, okay, these two men were former AEW tag team champions. It's kind of weird that they get this first meeting and it's over in whatever it was, 58 seconds. Maybe they'll run it back again. But again, pre-show stuff. Caster's been doing a comedy gimmick. How long was this match supposed to go? I said it when they were on the precipice of breaking up the Acclaim. They had not yet broken up, but they were clearly going down that road. And everybody said, oh, Max Caster. Max Caster can get a singles run. Well, maybe he can. But I was focused on Anthony Bowens. I was focused on Anthony Bowens having the higher ceiling of the two of them. I think Anthony Bowens could be a breakout babyface for Tony Khan if he knew what the fuck he was doing. And maybe he will. Maybe Anthony Bowens will get lucky in the way that Kyle Fletcher has. Kyle Fletcher, they've done well by him. And he's been established as a great heel as part of the Callis family. Maybe they could replicate that with Anthony Bowens on the babyface side. But there is definite potential in him as a singles babyface to break out on his own. If it were up to me, I would start building him up right now to compete for the TNT Championship later on in the summer. So it was good to see him back. Again, he got a great reaction here in Philadelphia, and that was the pre-show. Now we get into the main card. We had the first of three Owen Hart Foundation tournament match. I'm so fucking pissed at that ending. Oh, take a swig here. I hate it. I hate it when smart people make stupid decisions. And I hate it when you have, in this case, a promoter who has such little regard for the audience that, again, they would have you sit through a show like that and build up everything through a show like that to give you a finish like what they did tonight. It's like we're back in WWE in 2019. Like with some of these finishes, seriously, it's like we're back in the fucking dark ages here. Right? Remember those rants? I feel like that's where we are now. And there's no reason for it. We had Will Ospreay against Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight was a replacement for Jay White, who unfortunately broke his hand. And so he was bumped out of the tournament. It's a legitimate injury. He either had surgery or was about to have surgery. He was on Collision the other night. His hand was wrapped. I think he already had the surgery. So Kevin Knight, who just signed with the company, he just debuted. He just wrestled Jay White on Collision last week. Took his spot here in the tournament. Jim Ross joined on commentary for this match. He took Tony Schiavone's place. Think about this. Up until a few days ago, Kevin Knight didn't even know he was going to have a match on this show, let alone a match with Will Ospreay on pay-per-view. So it's quite the come up for him, given that he just signed his contract. So, of course, you had lots of big moves here. I'm not going to get into the blow-by-blow, but suffice it to say that when this was all said and done, Will Ospreay picked up the win. He demolished Knight at the end there with a hidden blade. I thought it was actually a very good opener. I would say Ospreay made him look like $1 million, but I almost feel like that would be offensive to Kevin Knight because Kevin Knight more than held his own. I thought that he did a tremendous job here. The fans were super into this. Ospreay, he paid respect to him when the match was over and tried to put him over there a little bit at the end. But for somebody who just had his first pay-per-view match, his first big pay-per-view match here in this company, I thought Knight knocked it out of the park. Even though he lost, and everybody knew he was going to lose. But I thought he did a fine job here. And for the people who didn't know much about him coming into this, now they have a better sense of what kind of performer he is. If you already knew who he was, if you saw him in New Japan.
A Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him?
If you saw him in New Japan or if you saw him on the Independents, you know what he can do. And so tonight only reinforced what you knew he was capable of. But the outcome here was never in doubt. This is Ospreay's tournament to lose. It's either Ospreay or Hangman. And after tonight, I think it only reinforces the idea that this is probably going to go Will Ospreay's way. Because I could see it in their mind that the idea may well be to get to Texas and have Ospreay be the one to beat Moxley. Which is a nice idea in theory, of course, but July is still a ways away. The idea is that when you're building a story like this, it should be fun. It should be fun. I've said this before, right? I've talked about the lackluster WrestleMania build up until this past week. And how, John Cena, he's not on all the shows. The Rock, we haven't seen him. And it's like, the fun is really in the journey where you're trying to get to your destination. You're trying to get to that WrestleMania match. Okay, well, what happens in the 4 weeks or 6 weeks between now and then, right? That should be the fun part. This Death Riders thing, it's missing the fun. Where's the fun? I would like to know where it is. For as long as this thing has been dragged out for, you would think that this is the greatest story they've ever come up with. And that's the thing it's missing is fun. Whatever the payoff ends up being, whoever it is that's going to stand tall at the end of all this, victorious over the Death Riders, to me, it almost doesn't even matter at this point. It's like you're beating the life out of so many people by failing to see what's right in front of your face. So maybe it's going to be Ospreay. I still think it's his to lose. But I thought this was a very good opener for this show. We had the Hurt Syndicate against Big Bill and Bryan Keith for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Not much of a match here. It was a means to an end to get the MJF spot in to further that story because he did show up. This was his big role on the show. He popped up in the front row. So Keith, he wasted no time tagging Bill in. We got some back and forth with Bill and Bobby Lashley. Anyway, this set up a spot for a little bit later on. There was actually a one-arm vertical suplex spot from Bobby Lashley, which was not the only spot like that we had on the show. But it was the first one. So Bill and Lashley, they end up outside, over by the barricade. MJF must have been crouched down hiding because he popped up and he had the Dynamite Diamond ring on his hand and he walloped Bill right in the head with it. This did not make Lashley or Shelton Benjamin very happy when they saw what happened. But with Bryan Keith all alone in the ring, he got dropped with a German, big spear by Lashley, and that allowed Benjamin to get the pin to retain the titles. This was more like a Dynamite match or a Collision match, and this is one of those things I was talking about, where time management is such an issue on these shows. It is such an issue on these shows. We're not talking about Wrestle Kingdom, which happens once a year. We're not even talking WrestleMania, which at least is divided into 2 fucking nights. This is every single fucking month with these shows. You have these matches that don't need to be on here. You have these matches that are just there to pad the card. This could have been a television match. Originally, supposedly, the plan was to do the Hurt Syndicate against the Murder Machines, which also would have been a television match. 10 minutes here, 12 minutes there, 7 minutes there. It can make a difference. So that's what this match felt like. They just wanted to do the MJF angle. If you remember from Wednesday, Lashley made a comment about, MJF, we don't really need you unless you can prove your worth or why we need you. I don't want to see you. So this was MJF's way of showing him, hey, I can be useful. I can be helpful to you guys. Wherever the hell this story is going, though, beyond that, I have no fucking idea. We have Mercedes Moné against Julia Hart, current TBS champion against former TBS champion. This was a first-round match in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. They showed Harley Cameron watching on backstage with her mini Monet puppet. As the winner of this match will meet the winner of Cameron against Athena. That's the other first-round match on that side of the bracket in the Owen. There was a small slip up early when Mercedes, she tried to scale the ropes and she slipped. She like slipped on the bottom row. It's not like she like fell. It's not like she fell on her ass or anything like that, but she had a little slip on the ropes and the fans began to boo. Now it's Philly, so the fans are going to boo anyway. They booed fucking Santa Claus one time. They booed fucking Wheeler Yuta, who's from Philadelphia, and they booed the shit out of him in his match. But the fans started to boo, and Taz on commentary, he starts to talk about how, why don't you fans try it? Like, I love how they get so defensive. You ever notice that? Especially in AEW. I notice it more in AEW. They always get so very defensive, right? As if wrestling fans aren't allowed to boo. If you're a wrestling fan and you're at these shows, right? It's different if, let's say, a wrestler is standing there and you look them dead in the eye and go, you fucking suck, or something really like over the top like that. But if you're a wrestling fan and you go to these shows, boo and cheer for whoever and whatever you want, and don't pay any attention to this noise, please. So the first half of this match was pretty flat. But the fans did get into the near falls down the stretch. They were actually really behind Julia Hart. Mercedes wanted 3 amigos. Hart escaped after the second amigo and tried a standing moonsault. Mercedes got the knees up. So skipping ahead a little bit, Mercedes missed a corner charge. She flew through the ropes to the floor. Julia hit a dive to the floor onto Mercedes, quickly got her back inside, and hit a DDT. Tried to repeat the move. Mercedes countered into a lung blower. Both women were down. So Julia rolls through a Monet maker, gets a jackknife cover only for 2, and both women made their way back up to their feet. Julia got a tarantula in the ropes. Taz gave a shout out to Tajiri. Then we got an octopus hold applied by Julia. Mercedes collapsed in the corner and sent Julia headfirst into the turnbuckle. So she's stomping on Mercedes, stomping her on the mat. She goes up top. Mercedes, though, hits the double feet to the face when she comes off on the moonsault attempt. Kicked her right in the face. So we get 2 backstabbers from Mercedes. Julia fights off a third one. Both women traded statement maker and heartless attempts. And by this point in the match here, there was a point here where Mercedes got the statement maker locked on. And these fans were solidly behind Julia Hart, right? They were chanting Julia, Julia. I mean, unless they were thinking that a different Julia was about to show up. It was nice to see that kind of support for her here in this match. And she did manage to escape into a roll up for a 2 count. Mercedes then used the seatbelt pinning combination. We've seen Yuta use this before, and she scored the 3 count, and she advances to the next round of the tournament. They had a couple of rocky moments here, but I actually thought it turned into a pretty good match. Definitely not the best of the Mercedes matches that we've seen her have on pay-per-view, but not the worst either. It was nice to see the crowd get behind Julia. If there's one thing that I would have changed, I probably would have had Julia pass out in the statement maker instead of doing, what they did here with the seatbelt. But outside of that, I had no issues with this. I thought it was good. We had the Death Riders, my favorite group. I didn't think it was possible for me to hate a group more than the Aces and Eights that had more go-away heat with me, but can't say that anymore. We had Claudio, we had Pac, and we had Wheeler Yuta defending the AEW Trios titles against Adam Copeland and FTR. Wheeler Yuta is from Philadelphia. As I mentioned before, he got more heat than almost anybody else on this show, outside of the finish of the show. So these people did not like him. They booed the shit out of this guy. Nigel McGuinness joins on commentary for this. And we are told that referee Paul Turner drew the assignment despite having issues with Dax Harwood in recent weeks. Dax, remember, he got fined. Was it $10,000? Handed him a check on TV the other week. Is that how it works? When you get fined, you give the money directly to the referee? I didn't know it worked that way. Is that what you do in sports? You just give the money to the umpire? Slip it to him? You know what, though? the Aces and Eights angle, it wasn't all dog shit. A lot of it was, and it certainly turned into it. But I could at least find certain angles that they did and certain aspects of that story that were good. Even their music. I like their music. I can't think of anything about the Death Riders I like. Presentation, matches, music, nothing. No redeeming qualities whatsoever. Maybe that's the idea, because they're heels, right? Except it makes for terrible TV. So anyway, Pac and Harwood, they got a quick exchange to kick things off here before Dax scrambled out of a brutalizer attempt. Copeland tagged in, and he quickly got taken over to the Death Riders corner. We got some quick tags between Wheeler and Copeland, and Harwood ended up joining them. They did a double team move. Wheeler ended up getting isolated for a little bit until he went to go make the hot tag to Copeland, but Harwood jumped in, and he stole the tag away. And he ran wild to no reaction from the crowd. Tony Schiavone drove home about how that tag was meant for Copeland. Claudio no-sold some lariats from Dax. He tried to pop up uppercut. Harwood countered into a backslide. Yuta tried to make the save. Copeland caught him in the grindhouse. While Harwood trapped Pac in the sharpshooter, Claudio had Wheeler in one as well. Harwood and Claudio, they started swinging at each other while they still had their submissions applied. So it got broken up, and Claudio tags Yuta in. They did the giant swing into the drop kick on Dax. Harwood was able to dodge Claudio, who came charging in, and he dove for the hot tag to Copeland. He drops Pac with an impaler DDT for a 2 count. So we had the baby faces on offense here for a little bit. Yuta wanted a Busaiku knee, and he ran into a shatter machine. Pac got planted with a spear. Claudio, though, broke up the count. Yuta leapfrogged a spear. And when he did that, Copeland had to stop short because he almost collided with Dax, right? But he stopped himself. But then he got shoved into Dax in the corner. And they hit Harwood with a Busaiku knee. Yuta did. And the Death Riders got the win. And no surprise there. I figured they were going to retain here and we were going to have some kind of angle when the match was over. And that's exactly what we got. When the match was over, Death Riders, they celebrate. They go through the crowd on their way to the back. Wheeler is standing in the ring. Copeland offers his hand to help Harwood up because he's down on the mat. And Rated FTR stands tall. Wheeler is about to go leave, right? So it looks like everything is okay. Everything is copacetic here with these three. And it looks like Cash Wheeler is about to leave. Dax Harwood has other ideas. He grabs Copeland and he pile drives him. Totally safe. Gives him a pile driver. Then he goes outside. He grabs 2 chairs. And Wheeler is looking at this like, what are you doing, dude? And he gets back in the ring with the 2 chairs. He wants to give him a concerto. Wheeler shoves Dax down onto his ass and goes back over to check on Copeland. But when he goes to help Cope, instead he pulls him in for a shatter machine. And so FTR are on the same page. They have officially turned on Adam Copeland. And then they hit a spike pile driver to Copeland onto the chair. Harwood went to go finish the job. Wheeler stopped him and said, "Allow me." And he hit the concerto instead. There was a doctor who ran into the ring. Wheeler delivered a second concerto for good measure. Then he mockingly took the neck brace that they brought out for Copeland. He put it on himself. And Dax went and started giving him chest compressions. Wheeler ripped off the neck brace and told the doctor he needs it more than I do. FTR walked to the back. Copeland did a stretcher job. The match itself was good. I thought it was a good match with the turn that probably everybody saw coming in the end. Right? You can't say they didn't telegraph this for weeks on television. As far as the heel turn itself, you know what I could appreciate? From New Day to DIY and now FTR, right? All 3 of these examples. Partners who fight together turn heel together. All of these teams, right? They've all gone heel in the last few months, and they've all stayed together. And the idea that maybe they would break up FTR if some people thought that is so ridiculous. It's just so preposterous. Like, can you even imagine breaking up Dax and Cash? You honestly think They would thrive on their own. They would get pushed on their own. Like they're dead in the water. You're not going to split them up. So either they were going heel or Copeland was going to go heel so that he can partner with Christian as a heel. Instead, they went the predictable route, which is fine. They took out Copeland, which is also fine, because frankly, I think he can stand to be off television for a month or two. Now the question is, if the direction is Texas, Copeland, Christian reunite to take on FTR, how do you get there? How the hell are you going to get Copeland and Christian in the next 3 months back on the same page, especially coming off of Christian and his crew costing Copeland the championship not once but twice? I don't know. They'll have to figure out a way. Or maybe they won't, and Tony Khan will just do it, right? Because he don't give a fuck. But whatever happens, that's clearly looking to be the direction for Texas. Cope and Christian reunite. They take on FTR on that show. And I would hope that Copeland, after what we saw on this show, is going to disappear for a while. Because this definitely, the stretcher job and everything, this definitely felt like an injury angle to get him off TV. We had Timeless Toni Storm defending the AEW Women's World Championship against Megan Bayne. After Bayne's entrance, Justin Roberts introduced us to our feature presentation. And they showed Toni, she was out running the streets and training like Rocky, fucking Rocky Balboa on the streets of Philadelphia. Storm then entered dressed as Rocky. Luther was with her. He was dressed as Mickey the Trainer. Nigel McGuinness said that Toni has been drinking eggs and beating meat. And take that how you want. So Storm tried a very quick start. Bayne, though, right off the bat, shoulder tackle, showing her power. She had the power and the size advantage. So Luther is tending to Toni on the outside. Bayne hits a big tope suicida, wipes out Luther. Back inside, Penelope Ford trips up Toni. That allows Megan to have the best moveset. That allows Megan to hit a pump kick to regain control. Ford got in more shots until finally Luther recovered. He ended up carrying Penelope Ford on his shoulders to the back, and so now Megan Bayne was on her own. So that allowed Toni to hit a Thez press and a DDT out of the corner. Bayne avoided Storm Zero, sent Toni onto the apron, where she hit a back suplex from the outside in. Bayne took way too long going up on the ropes, which allowed Toni to recover and hit a nearly disastrous German suplex off the ropes. This could have ended very, very badly. It was a release German suplex. Actually, the fact that Megan kind of over-rotated and landed on her face is probably what saved her. Because she could have landed directly on top of her fucking head. So that was a very scary bump. Thankfully, she was okay. Bayne came back, connected on a Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Sweet cheek music hits. Bayne no-sells it. So Toni fires off a headbutt. 3 more sweet cheek musics in the corner. Each time, I mean, you watch it, it just looks devastating. Like the way the head whiplashes and the speed that she comes in at. So she whiplashed her 3 different times. Storm Zero connects. Bayne kicks out at 1. And Toni can't believe it. She's got a look on her face. What do I have to do to beat this woman? So Bayne starts hitting herself over and over and over again, like she's trying to fire herself up. She stands up and she clobbers Toni with 2 lariats and a Liger bomb. And then she looked for her Fate's Descent finish, which is her F5. Storm counters into a small package, gets the flash pin, and retains the title. And Bayne can't believe it because she got caught. So she can't believe what happened. They show Toni Storm on the outside. She can't believe it either. But she is still the AEW Women's World Champion. This was a very good match. I enjoyed this, and they told a very simple story, coming into it, where the challenger had the champion's number. No matter what Toni threw at this woman, it wasn't working. She actually got pinned by her in a tag team match on the show last week. What is she going to have to do, right, to beat this woman? She's undefeated so far in her run in AEW. It was a very simple pro wrestling story. And in the end, it's a roll-up finish that I don't hate. And the reason I don't hate, the only thing I hate about it is the fact that they did the same fucking finish in the match with Toni and Mariah when Toni won the belt back at Grand Slam. And that was only, what is it? What's today? April 7th? Not even 2 months ago. That's how they ended that match, with a roll-up. And so they did the same thing here. That I don't like. But what it does, two things. Number one, it protects Megan because it was a clean win, but it wasn't a decisive win. It wasn't like she just hit Storm Zero and pinned her, right? She got caught. It wasn't so much that she beat her as much as she survived her. And so it leaves it open for a rematch. I don't know if they're going to do a rematch. Maybe it doesn't make sense to do a rematch. Because in the rematch, you'll have to beat Megan Bayne. Maybe they did it this way so they don't have to beat Megan Bayne in a decisive way. So I don't know what their plans are. If they want to get one more match out of it at Double or Nothing, maybe with a stipulation, they could certainly do that if they want to. But they made the decision, we don't want to do a title change. We want Toni Storm to be our champion going into All In. So when we roll into Texas, she's going to be our champion. That's what I got out of this finish tonight. Because if they wanted to, they could have gone all the way with Megan and had her win. But everything they did up until this point indicated that they were going to do the exact opposite. As dominant as she was, I just found it very hard to believe that they would come into the show and then still have her beat Toni. So I didn't hate the finish. They tried as best they could to protect Megan, and this was her best match so far. So I enjoyed this. We had one final Owen Hart tournament first round match with Kyle Fletcher against Mark Briscoe. This is a rematch from Collision last month. This was basically, it was crazy spot after crazy spot to the point where I just got numb.
The best moveset.
To the point where I just got numb to it. Boy, this guy he really does have the best moveset, doesn't he? I hear about it all the fucking time. Move after move after move, kick out after kick out. You just kind of get numb to this shit after a while. Fletcher landed a nasty brainbuster on the apron and a proper brainbuster back in the ring for 2. Briscoe floated over an avalanche brainbuster. He wanted a cutthroat driver. Fletcher held on to the ropes. Briscoe hit Froggy Bow. Only got a near fall. He wanted a J Driller. Fletcher spun out of it. Briscoe hit a cutthroat driver flush. Fletcher, though, wisely rolled outside. So Briscoe, that's not going to stop him. He goes up top, and he hits a Froggy Bow onto a standing Fletcher on the outside. And then back inside, he tried again, but Fletcher got the double boots up. Finally, he hits the avalanche brainbuster on the top turnbuckle and picks up the win. It is a tournament, so of course that means Mark Briscoe is going to lose. And lose he did, but at least we got some good action out of it. They were out there, they were killing each other, they were popping off near falls for big moves like they were in the fucking main event. And this is a problem on all these shows. Like some of these matches, like they're all going to have near falls. But you get to that point where it's like, it's one too many. And I was feeling that here in this match. Yeah, they were throwing so much at each other. And it's like, all right, do we really, like this match, do we really need to take it to that level? But they did. And look, the crowd liked the match. I thought they went a little too crazy with it, but another good showing for Fletcher. That moves him into the next round. Where he will wrestle either Hangman Page or the wild card. Whoever the wild card is going to be, if that person beats Hangman, then it'll be that person against Kyle Fletcher. We have Chris Jericho, as if I haven't suffered enough. Chris Jericho, defending the Ring of Honor World Championship here on this AEW show against Bandido. Title versus mask. They saved this, at this point in the show, for nearly 20 minutes. They gave this nearly 20 minutes on this show. And this is one of the things that I'm talking about. This is a Ring of Honor World Championship match. Why do we need this match on this AEW show? Why this late in the show do we need 20 minutes devoted to Chris Jericho defending the ROH World title? Why? We don't. They have a Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up on May 2nd. Supercard of Honor. They'll probably just run this back again there. Bandido went over to kiss his mom and sister, who were in the front row again, as they were for what was supposed to be his brother Gravity's match with Chris Jericho last month on 0 Hour. Jericho, right at the bell, Jericho hit a code breaker, only got a near fall out of it. They did a spot where Bandido did a one-handed stalling vertical suplex, even though we saw Bobby Lashley do the same thing earlier in the show. But in this case, Bandido did it for a full minute. We got a running boot on the apron from Bandido, who tried it again, but Jericho scooped him up, and he powerbombed him off the apron, and Bandido splatted on the floor. And this was such a stupid spot, especially after Bandido concussed himself doing something similar. And it wasn't even on the floor, it was in the ring. That was when he came back on the ROH show, I think it was, and he did the springboard, drop kick off the top, smacked the back of his head on the mat, and he was gone again. It's such a stupid, unnecessary spot. Jericho grabbed the camera, one of the TV cameras, and he filmed Bandido's family as they were crying in the front row. I don't know if they were crying over watching, their son and brother get splatted on the floor, or if they were just crying because they were sitting there at this point for 3.5 hours. I don't know. Jericho kicked his feet up in the corner. He took a breather as Bandido broke the count at 15. They reminded us on commentary it's ROH rules, so it's a 20 count instead of a 10 count. Honestly, it should be a 20 count for all wrestling. AEW, WWE, because they already do it in New Japan. It really should be a 20 count everywhere. Bandido got crotched in the corner as Jericho hit 10 punches. He tried a Hurricane Rana. Bandido held on to him, and he looked for a powerbomb. Jericho, though, countered with a snap Hurricane Rana in midair, so that was nice. Jericho again opted to pose, which allowed Bandido to hit a gorilla press slam and a frog splash for a 2 count. Bandido tried another tornillo, but Jericho got the double knees up for the double down. Both men found themselves back to back. They did this spot previously, and it got over big. They did it here. It didn't get over nearly as much. But, the old Western standoff where you go back to back and you kind of look back at the other guy and then you do the march, right? 10 steps into the corner. Only this time, Jericho's the heel, so he doesn't even wait for Bandido to make it to the corner, and he turns around and just attacks him from behind. So Bandido recovered. He wanted the 21 plex, which is his finish, and he didn't get the rebound on it that he usually gets. So he tried to rebound back over, and then he just lost his momentum, and it looked all fucked up. So a little bit of a botch there. But Jericho rolled through anyway. It didn't matter. He rolled through into the walls of Jericho. Bandido got the ropes as Jericho argued with Bryce Remsburg. Here comes Bryan Keith, who already got annihilated by the Hurt Syndicate earlier. He limps his way back down to the ring. Gravity, though, soon follows. Wherever Jericho goes, Gravity follows. So Gravity comes down to the ring, and he brawls with him at ringside. And with the referee's attention diverted, Jericho grabs his baseball bat. And Chris Jericho takes this baseball bat and he blasts Bandido in the face with it. Now, I know he's got a mask on, but he's not the man in the iron mask, okay? He gets blasted in the fucking face with a baseball bat, and Bandido is down. So Jericho hides the evidence in between the ring steps and the ring, just kind of slides it right down in between. And he slowly crawls over and he covers Bandido. It felt like this took forever. And he still, he covers him and he's waiting, and the referee comes over and the referee counts 3. And Chris Jericho wins the match. He retains the Ring of Honor World Championship. And I'm thinking, okay, you know what? As stupid as this is, it's the first unpredictable finish that we've had on the entire show, because everything else has been predictable up until this point. But we weren't done yet. After the match, referee Aubrey Edwards, who was not the official in the match, she's out there in the front row talking to Mama Bandido and Bandido's sister. And she's talking to them, and they're trying to communicate to her what happened and where the baseball bat is hidden. So they allow the mom and the sister to enter the ringside area to show Aubrey where the bat was. And Bryce Remsburg, Aubrey Edwards, and Justin Roberts, they're all conferring. And Justin Roberts makes the announcement that this match will continue. We are, in fact, not done yet. Jericho reaches through the ropes. He grabs Bandido's sister by the hair. She slaps him, and that allows Bandido to hit the reverse GTS and the 21-plex, and this time he hit it perfectly. And he wins the match, and he wins the Ring of Honor World Championship. Tony Schiavone said, "Not often are matches restarted in AEW, but justice has been served." Like he's Sid Justice sitting here at ringside. Tony Schiavone's sitting there with his little fucking bow tie. Justice has been served. Technically, this was not an AEW match. So if you want to really try to apply some logic to it, yes. Typically in AEW, you would never see something like this. When does the referee come out to help reverse a decision, right? Never. But technically, this was a Ring of Honor match. Although I don't think they do that in Ring of Honor either. Bandido goes, he celebrates with his mom and his sister and with Gravity as Jericho is left seething. It was not a bad match. As Jericho matches go these days, it was not a bad match, but there was no reason for this to go 18 minutes. They devoted almost 20 minutes to this match here on this show. That is just completely fucking ridiculous. I love Bandido. There was no reason for this match to go almost 20 minutes. And if you really want to make the title change feel special, here's my suggestion. Do it on a Ring of Honor show. This is not Ring of Honor. This is AEW. You have a Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up on May 2nd called Supercard of Honor. Do it there. Do it there instead of doing it fourth from last on an AEW show. That didn't need this match on here. And it's a ridiculous finish because for all of the times we see shit like this, like, why now, right? It's just one of those gaps in wrestling logic where it's like, why here and not somewhere else? Like that one time in WWE, God, I don't remember what show it was, where they had the referees checking a monitor. They pulled a monitor out, like a small little monitor from underneath the ring. Something happened, and they got the instant replay. It was an Alberto Del Dipshit match. I don't remember who he wrestled, but they looked at the monitor, and I don't remember if they restarted the match or if they reversed the decision, whatever it was. But I'm watching this, and I'm like, well, they should do this all the time because they did it the one time, and of course, they never did it again. It's just one of those stupid logic holes, that the dumb wrestling logic. But, they wanted the feel-good moment. So they gave Bandido the feel-good moment here. This is what they came up with. It was the right call. As far as the finish, it was the right call to make as far as who went over. It was the only call to make because Bandido was not losing his fucking mask. Once it became title versus mask, you kind of knew who was going over here. And I suspect we'll probably get a rematch at Supercard of Honor for the people who are going to watch it. And maybe that's where we get the real beginnings of a learning tree implosion. Because I can see Big Bill and Bryan Keith trying to get involved and help Jericho. It backfires or it doesn't work. And then finally we get the learning tree implosion. And here I thought the learning tree was the worst faction. I was wrong. The learning tree is not even as bad as the Death Riders. You know why? Because the learning tree, you'll get the learning tree like a New York Minute, whatever stupid segment they're going to do with Jericho. Thankfully, he doesn't do the, what was the segment he was doing in the ring? He had a name for it. Story time with Jericho, whatever the fuck it was, with the fucking tree in the background. You know what? Like, you get periodic segments like that in the middle of the show, and it's like, whatever. It's not the main event. It's not the world championship. At least not in AEW. So actually, the Death Riders have long passed the learning tree as the worst faction in this company. That's tough. I mean, that takes some real effort there. By the way, since I'm talking about Jericho, I should mention this. This is kind of timely. I don't know if you noticed. Jericho's in a contract year. I believe his contract may be up later this year. If not, it's not up in the too distant future. And he was at a some sort of WrestleFest or convention or some kind of event. And he was asked by a fan if he would ever consider returning to WWE now that Vince McMahon is no longer there. And his answer was, sure. I would have considered it even before. And he talks about, everything we've done to really build up AEW from the very beginning and being a part of that and the growth of this company. He's really putting over AEW. But he's like, sure. Now, I'm pretty sure he's been asked similar questions in the past and has had different answers. But now it's like, oh, yeah, sure. Of course. I would consider it. Of course. He'll be back. He'll be back in the Hall. They'll invite him to the Hall of Fame one day. He'll be back. I'm not saying I want that. I'm just saying very interesting the timing of his answer. Either that or he's very strategically putting that out there. So when negotiations come up, he can get more money. He's not a dumb person. We had Adam Cole against Daniel Garcia for the TNT Championship. No time limit. No interference allowed. The crowd for this was completely burned out. Totally burned out. They needed basically a break before the next two matches coming up after this. This was it. This was the break. This was the come down. This was the time where, you take a nap, right, to recharge, and then you wake up. This was nap time for many of the fans here in Philadelphia. Cole wanted a Panama Sunrise off the apron. Garcia dodged it. Cole came up limping. And he is selling the leg. It might have been the surgically repaired leg. Referee never had time to check on Cole before Garcia flew in with a shotgun dropkick, started stomping on the knee. The moment that Cole got an opening... Oh my God. Shut the fuck up. It's like I speak his name and there he is. Fuck that tree. As soon as I said his name, I should have known. I should have known what was coming. The moment Cole got an opening, though, he hit a fireman's carry neckbreaker on his good knee. Cole tried the Panama Sunrise again. Garcia rolled through, nearly got the Dragon Tamer, but settled for a lariat that turned Cole inside out. So Garcia connected on a twisting Gotch-style pile driver. Garcia blocked a super kick into an ankle lock. Cole, though, rolled to the floor. Garcia followed. He sent Cole crashing into the ring steps. But as Garcia was posing, he was a little too cocky here during this match. As he was posing, that little delay, it allowed Cole to hit a neck breaker on the knee while both were standing on the steps. Panama Sunrise hit off the apron. Cole went to go lower the boom back in the ring, but Garcia collapsed. And Garcia nearly tricked Cole with an inside cradle, but as both of them got up, Cole's leg buckled, and Garcia hit a Panama Sunrise of his own. Garcia lowered the boom on Cole, but Cole kicked out. And a very visibly frustrated Daniel Garcia, he slammed Cole's leg repeatedly down against the mat. But he had second thoughts when he was trying for another pile driver. Garcia went for an avalanche pile driver. This, of course, goes back to his feud with MJF last year. MJF did the same thing to him. Cole fought out of it, though, hit Panama Sunrise. Cole went to the other side of the ring. He had a second one before lowering the boom and winning the TNT title. And after the match, Cole offered his hand to Garcia, who accepted the handshake, and he gave Cole the ring all to himself. I couldn't get into this. This did nothing for me. The work, I'm sure the work was solid. It was fine. I don't care. I couldn't bring myself to care about this. This was a necessary title change, though, because the Daniel Garcia run, very underwhelming. Not doing any favors for the TNT title. There's no life to it. There's no life. There's no spark. And I feel like Garcia is going to be better in chase mode as a babyface anyway than he is having like a long title reign. So just to shake up things with the TNT title picture, and frankly, because there are a lot of other people on this roster that I think could benefit from holding that championship, it was time to transition it away from him and onto somebody else. So I'm glad they did the title change. What I would do, I said this earlier, I would really start, now that he's back, I would really start pushing Anthony Bowens very hard, because I really think he could be a babyface that people rally behind. And I would start building him up now for an eventual match or program for the TNT title, with the idea of eventually putting that title on him. Try to make a new star. Start now. That's what I would do. We had Kenny Omega, Ricochet, Speedball Mike Bailey for the International Championship on a night that is going to be remembered for something very different. This right here was like the shining beacon. And if the crowd was dead during the last match, which they were, they woke up for this one. Ricochet immediately bailed, so Omega and Bailey, they were able to start. He's like, you guys go ahead. So when they all ended up on the outside a short time later, Ricochet got paintbrushed back and forth. He was getting smacked on top of the bald head. People were popping for it. They were kind of taking turns. Omega wanted a you can't escape on Bailey, who in fact escaped, allowing Bailey to drape Omega over the barricade. So he's kind of hanging over the barricade, right over his midsection. And Bailey wanted the moonsault double knees. He climbs up on top of the barricade. He's going to do those fucking moonsault double knees on top of the barricade, like right across the lower back. Ricochet stops him, and he gets up on the barricade, and he hits a rolling Death Valley driver, and he dumps Bailey on top of Omega, like right across the ribs and the lower back. So with Omega left to recover, Ricochet starts trash-talking the crowd. He puts the boots to Bailey. And while trying to keep Omega at bay, Ricochet wanted his Northern Lights into a brainbuster, but Omega returned. And we got a neckbreaker DDT combo spot. Tope Suicida took out both men on opposite sides of the ring. Before Ricochet grabbed Tony Schiavone's headset, grabbed it right off his head, and he started gloating. He starts talking shit into the headset. And out of nowhere, in comes Mike Bailey's foot. And it cracks Ricochet right in the side of the head. And then Bailey takes the headset, which wasn't even working now because it got all fucked up. But he took the headset and he was politely apologizing to Schiavone before hitting a missile drop kick back inside on Ricochet. Omega was back in for the you can't escape, but Bailey dodged the moonsault. Ricochet flew in. He missed the lion salt. Bailey, meanwhile, nearly pinned both men with a double crucifix pin, while Omega did a double backslide for 2. Everybody popped up only to deck each other with high kicks. We got a triple down. And at this point, the crowd burst into chants of, "This is awesome." With Bailey and Ricochet down on the floor, Omega got the crowd all amped up with the Terminator dive on both. Then it was Ricochet's turn to fly. He did a Fosbury flop. As he went for a baseball slide, Bailey dodged, sprung up, and hit an Acai moonsault. In the ring, Speedball's time adventure destroyed Omega, and he may have had the match won, but before the referee could count 3, fucking Rick Knox, Ricochet kind of dragged him to interrupt the count. So now a pissed off Mike Bailey went after Ricochet on the floor. He beat him up on the apron. Bailey tried his moonsault double knees. He missed, and his knees, my God. This guy's knees, they slammed hard onto that apron. That was not a soft landing. So Rick Knox now is outside checking. He's selling the knees, and Rick Knox is checking on him. Ricochet chop blocked Bailey, and in so doing, he also clipped Rick Knox, who was not supposed to get clipped. I don't mean in that way. I mean, he's a bad referee, but I mean, I wouldn't take it to that extreme. So he got clipped, but he no-sold it because he wasn't supposed to. Killing Rick Knox here. Ricochet fought with Omega up on the ropes. Bailey came back with a wild avalanche poison Rana on Ricochet. But instead of making the pin attempt, he went to Omega. And even Taz on commentary is like, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, you can get the win. Just go over there. He goes to Omega, who dropped the bottom out on Bailey and hit a Snapdragon. Omega stacked Bailey onto Ricochet and hit a double Snapdragon that had the crowd going wild. They were going apeshit for that. So Omega delivered V-triggers to both. Bailey got launched from the ring during his. Ricochet countered the one-winged angel. Omega countered Vertigo. Bailey dodged a one-winged angel as well. Hit a back heel kick, and they teased the callback to how Ricochet and Bailey won their match. If you remember the finish they did, like the double pin. So they basically did the same spot again. Ricochet gets his feet on the ropes. This time, though, there was a kick out. Ricochet wanted a powerbomb on Omega, who sent Ricochet tumbling outside. And Bailey missed his ultimate weapon, screaming in pain. That allowed Omega to sink in a knee bar. Ricochet flew in with a springboard 450 on Omega, only got 2. Ricochet hit Vertigo. Bailey kicked out, though, and Ricochet couldn't believe it. Bailey fought to his feet, and he struck the Karate Kid crane pose, which I am not going to replicate for you right now. But he did the crane pose, and then he booted, and Ricochet is like, what are you doing, dude? Like, that's only in the movies. And then Bailey booted the fuck out of him. Right in the face. Just booted him right in the jaw. I mean, I'll tell you what, Ralph Macchio would be proud. I'll say that much. Bailey hits the ultimate weapon. Omega, though, flew in with a V-trigger, and then he wanted a one-winged angel. Ricochet, though, broke it up with a poison rana on Omega. Ricochet wanted an avalanche vertigo. Omega joined them. Avalanche, one-winged angel to Ricochet. Because they're all on the ropes at this point. But he gives Ricochet an avalanche, one-winged angel. And as they come off, Bailey is in the corner. He falls backwards. And now he is upside down. He is trapped. His leg is trapped in the Tree of Woe. And Omega, he's right there, and he's pinning Ricochet, and all Speedball can do, he's kind of grabbing at Ricochet's leg, but he can just barely touch him. There's nothing he can do. And the referee counts 3. Kenny Omega pins Ricochet to retain his international championship. After the match was over, we hear the coin drop. Out walks the Continental Champion, who had no match on this show. He was in a suit, Kazuchika Okada. He walks down to the ring. As soon as he makes his way into the ring, Omega leaves. Like a heel. That's what a heel would do. He leaves the ring. He walks to the back. And that was it. And Omega and Okada's standing there, and then he leaves. So nothing happened here. But basically, it was kind of a callback to when Kenny came back. And he also kind of came out. He confronted Okada. That was the first tease of doing something in Texas at All In. So I guess this was Okada doing the same thing to him. This match here, I talk about the Jericho match going almost 20 minutes. They gave this match almost half an hour, or maybe even a little more. It was like 30 minutes, 31 minutes. I think they could have stood to shave 5 or 6 minutes and some near falls off this match. That's the only critique. That's really the only kind of like minor critique I would have about it, because it was such a great match. And off the top of my head, I mean, I'm sure I must be missing a few. There was a great triple threat match at Wrestle Dream. It was last year with Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Konosuke Takeshita. There was another great triple threat. I don't remember offhand who was in it. This one right here may have topped them all. I don't think it's too out there to say that this probably was the best triple threat match that they have ever done in AEW. And if it wasn't, it's in the conversation. This was an excellent match. This right here was the best thing on the entire show. Excellent stuff all around. I mean, it got to showcase Speedball style perfectly. Ricochet was doing Ricochet things, and we know what Omega can do. So you take all three. It's impossible for them to go in there and not have a great match. But their styles, they complement each other very well. Speedball will thrive here. Like this is his environment. That's why I said, like, when I first read that he was coming to AEW and not WWE, I said, you know what? That's the right place for him. I just think with his style, it just fits better here. And matches like this show why. So if there's one thing that you should go out of your way to watch on this show, this would be it. And if this show ended right here, my attitude about this show would be very different. It's too bad. Unfortunately, it didn't end there. It should have. Because 4 years later, it was finally time for the main event. With Jon Moxley defending the AEW World Championship against Swerve Strickland. 1 year to the event, the very event where Swerve won his first AEW World title. And Swerve came out here. He was dressed as Static Shock. That's what Excalibur told us. Moxley came out dressed as Jon Moxley, which is unfortunate. And so we got the big intros. as they do for the big championship matches. And then it was time for the match. And they had a wrestling match, which, you know what, is actually, it's a nice contrast to what we sometimes get with Jon Moxley. Although down the stretch, we got ladders and bullshit. So after a while, we actually did get the usual Moxley match, but they were doing some actual wrestling here at the beginning. But then Moxley dumped Swerve over the announce desk. This was maybe, 5 or 6 minutes in. Excalibur got knocked down. Moxley and Swerve, they were underneath the table together for a while. And then after a while, Swerve comes up and he's bleeding. He was bleeding from the side of his forehead. And Moxley now, of course, is doing Moxley things. So he is biting at the bloody wound, throwing punches at the cut. Moxley got Swerve on top of the ring steps and gave him a DDT. And the referee's count got all the way to 9 before Swerve rolled back inside the ring. Moxley gave Swerve a pile driver. He covered him for 2. And at that point, I just wrote in my notes, I said, we are past midnight Eastern on this show. And we really were just getting started here. And we are already past midnight. And I'm thinking, man, this better go the way that I hope it goes. Because if it doesn't, a lot of people are going to be very unhappy. Moxley transitioned into a cross arm breaker and then a triangle. Swerve eventually powered up Moxley. He slammed him to the mat to break the hold. Swerve went to go roll into a move. Moxley caught him with a cutter. Moxley set up for a Death Rider. Swerve, though, avoided it. And Moxley avoided a Vertebreaker attempt and then took Swerve down and caught him in a Bulldog choke. Swerve got to his feet. He rolled out of it and then rolled into a flatliner. Swerve hit the house call kick and then backed up, and he was setting up for another one. But Moxley turned him inside out with a clothesline when he came in. Swerve did eventually hit a house call kick again. So now Marina Shafir gets into the ring, and she's got the briefcase that supposedly has the AEW World Championship inside. She gets in the ring with the briefcase. She's looking at Swerve. The referee yells no, and I think he ejected her from ringside. Prince Nana gets into the ring, and he got in Marina's face. He turned around to go walk away, and she clobbered him in the back with the briefcase. Moxley went for a cutter on Swerve, but he shoved Marina into the line of fire, and she ended up taking the cutter instead. Swerve then hit Moxley with his own paradigm shift, only got a near fall. So at 12:15 in the morning, what does Jon Moxley do? This fucking guy goes outside the ring, and now he's pulling a ladder out from underneath the ring. Pulls out this ladder, tall ladder too, and he sets it up over by where he had pulled out, like the ring steps that were over by where the announcers are. Earlier when he DDT'd Swerve, he had just kind of pulled them out, right? So in that area over there, next to where the Spanish announce desk would be, he sets up this ladder. And he places Swerve on one side, because Swerve is like half dead. He props him up, and he places him on one side of the ladder, and then he goes around to the other side of the ladder, and he begins to climb up, with the idea that it looks like he's going to suplex him over onto the Spanish announce desk. Swerve stuffs the attempt, though, right? He blocks it. And what ends up happening is he gets in position for a Swerve stomp. As Moxley is holding onto this ladder, Swerve is above him, and he comes diving off with a double foot stomp, and he puts Moxley through the table down below with a Swerve stomp. And everybody loves that, right? Big spot. Fine. Eventually, they ended up back in the ring, and the match went on. So it's not like it led to the finish. It's another spot. So they end up back in the ring, and they're slugging it out. Marina Shafir comes back. She sends a chair into the ring. Moxley takes the chair, and he launches it at Swerve, who ducks, and the referee gets blasted in the fucking face with the chair. So we got our ref bump. Now you know the fuckery is coming. Referee goes down. Paul Turner, right? He's out. Swerve follows with a vertebreaker to Moxley. Of course, the referee is down. Here comes the cowboy. And I'm visualizing this in my head, and I'm saying, all right, I don't want to say that this is definitely going to happen, but man, this right here would make for a great ending to this show if it goes the way that I think it's going to go, which is based on what they did on Wednesday. when Swerve admitted, you know what? I got what I deserved when you burned my house down. You're right. I deserved it. And Hangman looked like, holy shit, like he wasn't expecting that answer. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, you want to set up the perfect ending to this show? You have the Death Riders come out. You have all the usual bullshit. Swerve Strickland is it looks like he's going to get fucked over, right? Or maybe not. Maybe he fights back, makes his own comeback, and he's about to win. Because it works either way. Here comes Hangman Page. And it looks like Hangman is going to deliver on his promise when he said, look, you will never again be the AEW World Champion. But now he's having second thoughts. Now he's having doubts. And so he backs off. Or he can help fight off the Death Riders. Everybody goes crazy. Swerve wins the title. You get your happy ending. And the Death Riders are no more. Or at least they're bumped down the card, right? It's great for all involved. That's what I was hoping we were about to get. As soon as I saw him coming down to the ring, he gets on the apron, and Moxley is getting to his feet, Swerve is getting to his feet, and he's looking at both of them. Like he's evaluating the situation to see, who am I going to go after? Who am I going to attack? As this is happening, here come the Death Riders. They attack Hangman. They get him in the ring. They hold him for the Busaiku knee. Here comes Wheeler fucking Yuta with the Busaiku knee. But he sidesteps it, and instead he hits Claudia with the knee. Pac gets sent out of the ring. Page drops Moxley with a deadeye. Here come the Ops. Remember the Ops were there. Samoa Joe and Hook and Katsuyori Shibata. They were just there. They were hanging around all night. So the Ops run out, and they're brawling with the Death Riders. In the ring, Swerve launches a chair at Moxley's head, knocks him down. He drags him to the corner. He begins the slow descent, or ascent, I guess, up top. People are going nuts because they're thinking, okay, here we go. Here it comes. Here's the finish. Our long national nightmare is about to end. Goes up to the top. He's taking his time, too. But he comes off and he hits the Swerve Stomp. But he can't make the cover. Like he's favoring his knee. And Moxley's there. He's over here. And he's slowly trying to like pull himself and crawl over towards Moxley to make the cover and grabbing at his knee. And all of a sudden the lights go out. And I'm thinking, motherfucker. Now what? And honestly, the thought did not occur to me to think of these two fuckers. Because I'm like, who the hell is it going to be? Right? Is it going to be somebody new? Is it going to be somebody I'm not thinking of? The lights come back on. And what do we see in the middle of the ring? The Young Bucks. Matt and Nick are in the ring. Each has a hold of Swerve's wrist. And they have him set up for the BTE trigger. And they destroy him and then wipe him out with the BTE trigger. The Young Bucks leave the ring. They're acting all tough. Nick Jackson spits his gum out at the cameraman. Jon Moxley in the ring. He's recovering. The referee is recovering. He crawls over and he covers Swerve. The referee counts 3. And Jon Moxley, once more, has retained the AEW World Championship. And I sat here, when I saw this finish, there was a moment of shock because I didn't think that they had the fucking balls to do this finish. Call it balls or just fucking stupidity. Call it whatever you want to. I thought they were smarter than that, especially after what they gave us last month. But they did it. And so, you kind of absorb it for a minute like, holy shit, they actually did it. They fucked up the finish of this pay-per-view for a second time and threw away so many great possibilities of how they could have set things up going into Texas. So they do this finish. Obviously, the fans are very upset. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it at the time. And again, I'm most appalled by the fact that this show has dragged on for so long. And they made you wait for the main event for that. Like it's one of the biggest slaps in the face. It really is. And now I'm just like kind of stunned and I'm laughing. I started laughing a little bit. I'm like, this is just unbelievable. It's like a spectacle. This is unbelievable. How fucking dumb are these people? How could people who are supposed to be reasonably intelligent be so fucking stupid? But here we are. And that is how they go off the air. Now, I can see it from their perspective. They're probably looking ahead and they've got all these story ideas about how, Swerve and Hangman are going to end up being tag team partners, right? We're going to get Swerve and Hangman maybe in Texas in a tag team match at All In against the Young Bucks. Or even before that, at Double or Nothing next month, we're going to get Anarchy in the Arena and all these people, the Ops and the Death Riders and Swerve and Hangman. These are your teams right here, right? These are your teams. Maybe we'll even get a blood and guts match out of it, right? We know they love their blood and guts. So this is what they're planning for. And all roads lead to Texas. And then maybe they will transition the championship away from Jon Moxley. Very likely to Will Ospreay, who I think has to be the favorite, even more than Hangman, has to be the favorite to win the Owen. And yes, in the moment when it finally happens and he gets the pinfall and they get that wide shot, everybody's going to be cheering. Everybody's going to be happy. It's going to be this great moment. And I'm going to be sitting here, and I hope I feel the same way, but I'm going to be sitting here thinking, you know what? This doesn't hit in the way that it should. They could have been doing something else. They could have had Will Ospreay against this guy, Swerve Strickland against that guy. Anything but what they are about to do, because this shit sucks. This is fucking terrible. And yet we drag on for another month and another and another and another. And it really does, in terms of this main angle that we have right now in this company, it really does feel like the dark days. It really does. There have been some terrible factions and terrible storylines in wrestling history. And where this one ranks, who the hell knows? We're still in the middle of it. I'm not interested in ranking, but I could just watch the show and know when something is actively dragging down my enjoyment of the show. And I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one because I see the comments, I get the emails, I see the tweets. For every one person who may enjoy this shit, there's fucking 7 who don't. And it's terrible because you look at all of the talent that they have on this roster right now. I mean, they are stockpiled with talent. Talent is not the issue. The talent is there. The talent is just begging to be utilized in the right way. And the fact that this is their chief storyline, this is their top storyline. This man won the championship in October, and this is going to drag on into July. I don't understand it. Is there nobody there who could communicate to this man that this is a bad idea and maybe we should pivot and go in a different direction? Because it just seems like he genuinely believes that this is great. This is great shit, pal. It's like Vince McMahon when he had a great idea that he loved, right? I mean, he was committed to it. And there was no chance that you were going to talk him out of it. Is that what we're dealing with here? Does Jon Moxley have some sort of undue influence that is just he's got this stranglehold on Tony Khan and he has like full creative control over the Death Rider stuff? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to, wrap my brain around how long they've been able to milk this for without realizing that it sucks. And it will continue to suck. Nothing is going to change until they get away from this. So, a very shitty ending to an otherwise decent pay-per-view, good pay-per-view even. It was not their best. There were matches on here that had no business being on here. It didn't need to be on this show. As great as that triple threat match was, there was no other match on this show that came close to the quality of that match. Like, not even close. By far, that was the star of the show. So this will not go down as one of the better AEW pay-per-views. Not even close. That main event sucked. I think, you look at the match itself before the finish, it was a better match than the one that Moxley had with Copeland at Revolution, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because it all comes down to the finish. It is not how you start, it is how you end. And how you ended last month was atrocious. How you ended this month was offensive. And I almost don't even care what they do at this point. And when you have that level of apathy, in your audience, that's a bad place to be. That's a real bad place to be. And that's just how I feel right now. I'm very apathetic. Like, who cares? What does it matter? Let's take a look at the Twitter poll. There it is. I think that says it all right there. 14.6% thumbs up, 16% thumbs in the middle, 69% thumbs down. Dynasty has been 69. I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me. Keeping me company here. Commiserating with me. So I know a lot of you feel the same way. Yeah, I get made fun of. I get made fun of for buying the pay-per-views. And I always say, like, the quality of the pay-per-views is always so great. Like, I don't regret buying the shows. Like, you know, but they're, oh, but you paid for the show, right? This is the first time, honestly, where I'm sitting here and I feel like, I really do. I feel like a fucking idiot for having bought this show. I feel like just an absolute blithering idiot. All right, let's go back to the early messages here. Start with those. Todd Warner. Thank you for the 20 time. That sounds like me when this pay-per-view is over. A Base Beerus with a $90 super chat drop. I'm going to give you the horn, my friend. I'm going to give you the horn. Thank you, Base Beerus. That makes me a little happier. That was the noise I was making after the finish of that show. It was an active growl. Todd wants to know, do you remember when Charlotte and Nia started shoot fighting with each other in the ring and they stopped selling for each other? Oh, yes. Oh, I remember that. Charlotte has had some issues with quite a few people. Ace of Masta. Glad there are some wrestlers that are familiar with the Rocky franchise. I could think of one who is not. I won't say who that is. Callum Davis says, Hell in a Cell 2018 ending or tonight's ending, buy or sell. I don't remember what the ending was to 2018. You may be talking about 2019. And they both fucking sucked. I'm not even going to rank one over the other right now. They were both shit. Oz and Glorious with a pair of super chats. We've definitely reached the 1998 WCW levels of NWO-ness in AEW. Fun night, crazy ending, don't even mind Swerve losing because Garcia can get fucked to NXT. The Line Drive. I always knew AEW was going to eventually have its 2019 Hell in a Cell rage quit moment. Every entertainment company does, but I thought it would be Jericho. Yeah, shockingly, as awful as the Jericho stuff has been, it was not Jericho. "2018 was Brock breaking into the cell against Roman and Braun causing a DQ. Well, yeah, that fucking sucked too. What is with these companies and their inability to come up with good, compelling finishes? Like, when Pat Patterson retired and then eventually died, like, was he the last great finish guy in wrestling? Because all I've ever heard about is what a great finish guy he was with wrestling matches. Like, does nobody else have the ability to look at these matches and come up with finishes that actually don't, cause people to want to put their head through a fucking wall? or actively ruin the product. Chris Manson, I knew deep down Toni wasn't going to pivot, but now it's clear Toni wants the feel-good moment in Texas. Like you said, there's a bunch of great names to choose from. It's not like they don't have any. I'm not worried about Texas right now. I'm worried about the bullshit that I'm being fed now and for the next 3 months. Plenty of different things you could do in Texas that don't involve the Death Riders. Aaron says, Swerve should have won. Hangman struggling was great, but that finish sucked. It should have ended with Hangman leaving as Swerve won. Wasted opportunity. Wasted indeed. Wasted also being the condition of the person who came up with that finish. I think they were wasted when they came up with it. Anderson Blitz. AEW, you either die as a beloved wrestling company or live long enough to become Hell in a Cell 2019. Well, this was certainly their Hell in a Cell 2019 moment. Frankenwheels 14. The ending of this pay-per-view was awful. Will Darby Allin be over and back by All In to justify a Cody Rhodes WrestleMania 40 type ending? Brother, if Darby plants the AEW flag on top of the mountain and comes back in time to win the championship at All In, it still will not come close to the Cody Rhodes story last year. So, is he going to be back? I don't know. Nor do I really care. I don't give a shit. No cap. Give me Shane McMahon for the love of God. He could at least make this Death Riders angle tolerable. Swerve deserves better. Duff's Vids, great pay-per-views my ass. Not anymore. Aaron says, I genuinely thought Swerve was winning tonight. At least we had that banger three-way. Speedball is unreal. Omega should be the AEW World Champion. Dude, the guy who delivered my Chinese food the other night, I would rather he be the AEW World Champion than Jon Moxley. Matt Fisher, I just got off work and just got here. Please tell me he lost the damn belt. Who wants to tell him? Who wants to break the bad news to Matt? Peter McNasty. I'm done with AEW. Good luck, y'all. Peter held on for as long as he could. Ryan Adams, Tony Khan saw the Mania 40 finish and was like, let's do that, but do it horribly. No, he said, let's do that, but in reverse. No, in his mind, he's going to save it for his WrestleMania. And in the meantime, it's, you know, we have to just continue to suffer through the Death Riders until we get there. Fire Panda with the 50. What Moxley needs to do next Wednesday is come out to the ring and continuously put his arms in the air while more and more obnoxious amounts of pyro go off, just like JBL did. AEW wins again. Hey, Fire Panda, thank you. Duff's Vids. Tony Khan is now Vince during 2010's booking, and Jon Moxley is his John Cena without the popularity. Josh Worthington says, rest in peace, AEW. Or rest in piss. I don't know. RIP could be rest in peace or rest in piss. Either way, I don't know. Alex with the 25 Meltzer is going to award the main event a 4.5-star rating. Look up the word loathsome in the dictionary and a picture of the main event will be next to it. Utterly atrocious. The Gary Sphere defended AEW through thick and thin. Here to tell everyone, stop watching. Only way they'll learn. Predicting all-in venue downgrade. Yes, it was that bad. Well, you know what? They've already downgraded one venue. I mean, can't rule it out. I still think they could pack 20K once they start actually announcing matches. Retro KOH, let's all get drunk and rattle off random names of people who would be better world champions than Jon Moxley. I will go first. Flop Dollar. Well, let's not get carried away. Let's not get carried away now. Base beer is Moxley is only in the... Tony Khan, this is Tony Khan's quote. Moxley is only in the third inning. Dev to Dust. Nikola Jokic. He gives off Gunther vibes. Can make him the champion. I don't know if he can cut promos, though. CNM 3443. Got my tickets pretty early for All In, thinking there's no way this Death Rider shit goes that long, and here we are. Not the way to go if you want to improve on those ticket sales. Drains these shows too. Dude, like, when you have a show that is that long, you at least are like, if you get to a point in the night where you start to get a little fatigued, it's like, well, at least I know they're going to have like a banger main event, right? Or at least there's something at the end there to look forward to. And that is no longer the case with AEW. It's actually quite the opposite. You know, whatever goodwill they had built up as far as their main events is just fucking gone now. It's really sad. Reborn Bladder or Blader. All right, so that put a smile on my face. I don't know why I read it that way. Reborn Blader, not Bladder. Now you know what I'm thinking about. I'm drinking too much, too much water here. Anyway, you know what? I hope one day I get reborn as a bladder. Said nobody ever. The bladder is reborn, says Jawan Hill. Yes. I don't know why this is making me laugh. I think I've actually just lost my mind. I think tonight I officially lost my mind. And something as simple as that now is just cracking me up. Not an AEW fan, but giving you what I can for your streams and for sticking it out for us on that awful ending. Thanks for the great stuff, Solo. Oh, man. Oh, man. I don't know, man. Oh, man. Oh, thank you, Reborn Bladder. I do appreciate the support. Man, you know what I forgot to do? I you know, when I came on the air tonight, just because I feel sorry for myself, I'm gonna play the world's smallest violin. This is for all of us tonight. The world's smallest violin. I'm going to keep this handy for these AEW shows from now on. I have a feeling I'm going to need them. I'm going to need as many violins as I could find. Matt Fisher. Finger poke of doom. Sting losing in 97 or Mox winning again. Which is worse? Well, considering the finger poke of doom kind of led that company down the path of destruction, I would say that ranks higher than Moxley winning tonight, because Tony Khan wishes he was doing the kind of numbers at that time that WCW was doing, but they're all fucking terrible. Everything that you just named there is awful and should never be replicated and should be used as an example of what not to do. This is gonna be my AEW violin from now on. The tiniest violin in the world, right here. Right here. I'm gonna take it with me everywhere I go. Be calm, see clearly. Is Kevin Knight gay because I want him? Well, slide into his DMs and find out. I haven't talked to him, so I don't know. Nor do I care. Dorian Foley with the 1999 Evening Solo. I'm a big fan. Much respect to you and your platform. Thank you. Conspiracy theory question. Do you think because of the dust-up this week between Swerve and Booker T that it made Tony Khan change his mind on Moxley dropping the belt? Absolutely not. One had nothing to do with the other. I promise you, one had nothing to do with the other. This is exactly what Tony Khan wanted to do, which actually makes it worse. But this had nothing to do with that. Linklex, I owe Cornette, Bischoff, and Disco an apology. I'm done. Don't ever apologize to Disco. Project Graham, I've bought every pay-per-view for 4 years, but I'm out. The Bucks. Seriously. Sorry, my money is better spent elsewhere in this economy. Punk was right. Imagine turning out the lights and thinking that in that situation, that the Young Bucks, we need the Young Bucks to be the big surprise at the end of this show when we fuck every single paying customer over who is watching our show. Like, you have to have completely lost the plot. Tony Khan has lost the plot. I'm sorry to say. We got Goat Dog. Longtime fan here. Watching you brings me joy, and I need it big time right now. Recent work injury has me facing eviction, and the uncertainty of not being able to keep a roof over my son's head sucks. Thanks for all that you do. That's terrible. I'm very sorry to hear. I don't know what the injury is, but or if it's something that you can recover from. I don't know if you're on disability or what your situation is, but that sucks, brother. I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope things get better. I hate hearing about stuff like that, but I think in the end it'll be okay. I think you've got a good head on your shoulders. You know the situation that you're in. I think you're going to be okay. Rizzo, is this AEW's version of Hell in a Cell with Bray and Seth? If you want to call it that. That was a terrible finish, and so was this. That was an insult to the audience, and so was this. So, to that extent, yes, it was. Jeremy Thunderstrikes. Man, 2021 AEW was so much fun. Even 2022 and 23, I was still hanging on. Now I don't care enough to tune in. What the fuck happened to AEW? I hope it gets fun again. EJ Slemp, could you imagine if Vince Russo booked this in 2007 TNA? Same people would have been livid. Who would have been livid will somehow justify this ending. Oh, they will. Oh, you'll find people who will justify this ending. Absolutely. Long-term storytelling, like in the end, they've got a vision for where this is going to go. It's, you know, you got to let it play out. Been letting it play out now for what? 6 months? You will absolutely find certain sickos who will find a way to justify what they did last month, what they did this month. I mean, they could have Jon Moxley stand in the middle of the ring and take a giant shit right in the middle of the ring, and they will, you know, cream themselves. And they will find a reason to get behind it, call it a great idea, lap it up. They'll always come up with excuses. Chris Ludek, AEW is sunk. Moxley's matches are so predictable. Interference, ref bump, dumb table spot. You know what it is, actually? It's the House of Torture. That's what it is. It's the House of Torture in New Japan. This is their version of the House of Torture. He says, Moxley can't wrestle. He does more harm than good, and Toni has no idea what he's doing. Awful show, worse company. Duff's Vids. Why did the little girl's ice cream melt? Because she saw the main event and was frozen with disgust. Sad but true. Duff's Vids. Sad but true. The House of Mox. They should rename it. They should rename it the House of Mox. Griga, how's it going, Solo? Keep up the good work. Looking forward to the replay review during work. Hey, Griga, I haven't heard from you in a while. It's good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Duff's Vids, I thought Jericho signed a 10-year deal, or was that someone else or a BS report, or did I dream that? A 10-year deal? I never heard that. I think you may have dreamt it. Noel Mulligan, €2 from Mayfield, Cork, Ireland. Thank you, Noel. I've never been to Mayfield, Cork, although one day I would like to make it over to Ireland. I kind of look like I belong there. Derek J. Speaks. That shit sucked. Hate this Death Riders crap, but thank you for the late night review. Always appreciate all that you do. Derek, thank you, brother. Casey is Raw. 38 months of channel membership. We need your Karate Kid crane pose. Do you? I don't think you do. Arabian Night. Tony Khan thinks Moxley and the Death Riders are like Roman and the Bloodline in terms of interest and heat. He might pull a WrestleMania 39 ending it all in and have it continue. Well, I mean, at that point, you're going to have people just jumping off the ship. You're going to have people jumping off the ship into the water. And that's going to be it. Super Pony says, Bob Dylan is the GOAT. Have a good night. I can't wait to check out this press scrum, by the way. So I'm sure Tony came in and said, man, it was a great show. Greatest AEW show ever. We had a wonderful show tonight. Great show. Excellent show. Up and down the card. Maybe the greatest night of AEW in history. Great show. Just a fantastic show. Wonderful show. Superb show. Stupendous. Everything's great. WWE Iceman 96V12. Just getting back from attending live with the family. Needless to say, the collective disgust in the arena after that main event was loud. Oh, it came through on the TV. We heard it loud and clear. Mikey Clayman think where Seth and Roman are compared to Moxley. Oh, I think about that often. HBKC83, AEW leads the pack with the amount of ring apron spots. It is ridiculous. Dude, there's so many just stupid fucking things that I see in some of these matches. The apron spots are just so played out, but just some of the dumb shit that they do, it's just ridiculous. And it means nothing either. They'll do it and it'll be on to the next spot. And it means absolutely nothing. Bret Hart with 37 months. I don't want to see Moxley, the Death Riders, and the Bucks ever again on AEW or wrestling in general. I don't care where they go from now. Just leave. We got Dog Lover. Hey, Solo, I'm not an AEW fan, but I still hope they succeed. Why do you think people want them to fail? Just discovered the channel, enjoying the content. Thank you, Dog Lover. You know, you have a lot of very tribalistic fans who pick sides. And so I've never understood it myself, because there are still people out there who want, you know, AEW to fail. I don't want AEW to fail. That's why, you know, I get upset when I see them do stupid shit like this, because they have the ability to do some pretty cool stuff with some pretty cool people. And when they make dumb decisions like this, it doesn't help their brand. And people pile on, and then you see people make comments like, oh, I wish they would just die. Like, the wrestling business would be better if AEW wasn't around, when the exact opposite is true. And having that competition at that level, you know, where they have a major media rights deal, you know, there's nobody else outside of WWE that has that. Nobody. There's no other wrestling company in the world outside of WWE that has that kind of deal and is making that kind of money that AEW is. And so if you take that away, all you're left with at that level is WWE. And that's terrible. I don't care how good you think WWE is doing. You always want to have at least that one, you know, not backup, but like that one competitor kind of nipping at their heels. Or even if they're not nipping at their heels, a solid number two, which is where AEW is right now. And for the people who say that, you know, they want AEW to die, or, you know, wrestling would be better off without them, I always say, like, those people are not real wrestling fans. You know, they're trolls. Because there is no good reason to feel that way. And that's to say nothing of all of the people that are employed there. To say that you just want it to die or go away, you know, it doesn't make you smarter than everybody else. It just makes you an asshole. Oz and Glorious. This is your fault, Solo. If you would have gotten on board with Double J winning the belt, we would already be there. This is on you. I hope you're happy. I'm like mulling over in my head if I would take Double J at this point as the champion over Moxley. You know what? I think I would. I think I would. Base Beerus, again with that $90 super chat drop. Says, wild thing, you make my heart sing. Goldberg can be the one to take the title off of Moxley. He can have a streak and retire as AEW champion. Save us, Goldberg. Or maybe this all leads to the rise of the Yuta movement. I wonder what Brett thinks of all this. I don't think Brett thinks anything. I think Brett is having a nice quiet night. He's sleeping right now because he's not dumb enough to be up like me at 2:30 in the morning. But he's having a nice night with his wife. He's not paying any attention to this. Nor would he want to. Be calm, see clearly. I think Moxley is checked out, honestly. Mox fan here. He may well be, you know, he's in a great position right now. He's had the championship. He doesn't physically have it, but he's had the championship for months. He's got his own little group. Apparently, he's left to his own devices and can do whatever the hell he wants. If I were him, I might be checked out too. He just wants to go out there and have hardcore garbage matches and bleed and do dumb shit. And Tony says, okay, sure. Sounds good. Base Beers, Booker T got in Tony Khan's ear. Sorry, suckers. Venom Kitetsu, thank you for forwarding the cat shelter information. Sad day. Yeah, that was a very sad story. And that is, if you follow me on X, that I retweeted that, what was it, earlier in the week. It's still up if you want to go check out the link. Mikey claiming having the Shield wasn't even worth this crap. Brian Mahoney with the 10 spot. On a positive note, I have followed Julia Hart since match number 1, pretty much in her AEW career. I feel like I am on the journey with her. Super big fan and glad to see her progress even still being green. I remember when she was the cheerleader. She's made quite a bit of progress since those days. Power Spying Games. Is it safe to call this a reign of terror? Oh, brother, we are way past that. I don't know what you would call this. I'm trying to think of a word strong enough to describe this. BCom, see clearly, the problem with the Cena comparison is Moxley never wins clean against credible opponents. Just have Moxley win clean in his matches. How about he doesn't win all of his matches? How about he finally loses? Because this shit sucks. I like that better. Hydrograd, Penta, Phoenix, Black, and Rusev are all laughing right now. Don't forget Ricky. Creflo with the 10. Solo is angrier than Tony Soprano was when he told the guy in the restaurant, take your hat off. They don't sell hot dogs here. They took the bleachers out 2 years ago. And his loud, angry breathing. Or the noises that he would make when he was eating his lasagna. He always made these weird noises. Blue Jay, imagine booking New Jack against Bruiser Brody. I'd love to see that match. Creflo, was this show worse than the old WWA shows? I didn't watch those shows. Wink the Cosmic Grandma. It's renewed their channel membership. Yo-Yo Sup. Thanks for watching that BS. Can you rank the Owen matchups from tonight? Yeah, we had 3 of them on this show. And I would say both men's matches were very good. Me personally, I would put the Osprey match first. And then the Fletcher match, and then the Mercedes match. TRG swag. AEW was literally a solid number 2 tonight. Matt Fisher, I'm tapping out. Good night and screw Tony Khan. And Justin G. Remember when Moxley was the AEW MVP? That was nice. Yeah, that was also 3 years ago. It's time to move on. Time to move on. Unfortunately, he doesn't see it the same way. But hey, they have an extra 500,000 viewers, supposedly, on average, watching Dynamite on Max every week, if you believe that. I got a bridge I can sell you if you believe that. Thank you guys for the support. Staying up late with me tonight. We are over 700 likes, so I owe you a Be the Booker. So why don't we go ahead and do that now? Let's be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
There he is. There's the culprit. We are approaching 3 o'clock in the morning here. So let's get to it. Let's book ourselves. My God. We land on Triple Threat. So we're going to book a Triple Threat tag team match. This is how we're starting out Be the Booker. We got to pick 3 teams. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Bret Hart and Bill Goldberg. This is before tragedy struck, before catastrophe struck. This is like Bret Hart's worst nightmare. Forcing him to tag with Bill Goldberg. They will be taking on Public Enemy, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge, and got to pick one more. Oh, fuck you. Go get bent. I don't want to see these guys tonight. I already saw them once. I have no interest in seeing them again. Fuck off. It's the Young Bucks. Women's Be the Booker. We have Jade Cargill, who's going to have herself her first singles match at WrestleMania this year. And Jade Cargill will be taking on Zoe Stark. This all feels very appropriate for tonight. I think we're in for a clean sweep, only in the wrong direction. All right, we got one more. This is going swimmingly. Bruno Sammartino, the longest reigning WWE champion of all time. We need the right opponent, though. If we find the right opponent, I feel pretty good about this. Be the Booker is over after the Wyatt Six massacred the roster. How very appropriate. That is how we end Be the Booker. The roster has been massacred, and we have lost every single round. Somehow, it just fits. On this night of all nights, it just fits. I don't think I could end this any more perfectly than that. I have said all that there is to say. It is very late. I have a very early wake up. I am not in a good mood. You guys help soften my mood a little bit. Hanging out with you guys always puts a smile on my face. This show at the end there did not put a smile on my face. And I think what they did at the end of this show was absolutely atrocious. And it cast a dark cloud over what otherwise would have been a good show. Not a great show, but a good show. But I think that if you were to give me a whole bunch of different scenarios of how I could have booked this ending tonight, they went with the worst possible ending that you could possibly think of. That's actually quite impressive. So, unfortunately, the Death Riders live on. All I can say is I'm at a loss. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm truly at a loss. If you did not see that the new episode of The Sound Off went up earlier today, episode 908, please go back and give it a listen. A lot of good stuff on that show. Covered a lot of ground, including a Dark Side of the Ring review on the Ludwig Borga episode from this past week. A lot of talk about AEW, WrestleMania, among other things. So please go ahead and support and go check out the latest episode. Leave a like on your way out. It just sucks. It just sucks. As far as AEW Dynasty and the ending tonight, seriously, the worst ending that AEW has ever given us. That is how they went off the air with Dynasty tonight. They should be ashamed. I'll see you guys Monday for the Raw post show.
How it's supposed to feel.